Hi, it's Spencer Unpacked. I'm moving away from the UK, so I've decided to do a video of going through all the different areas of the world and giving you my thoughts. So, Alaska, cold, mountainous, one moment they're Russian, next they're American, just seems very cold up there. Canada, there's lots of straight lines there. Canada, well, they're kind of weird, aren't they? It's cold for starters, and half of them speak English and half of them speak French. And, well, having lived right next to France, I can't imagine both England and France living in the same country. That would be a nightmare. So that's out of the question. Moving down to America, very expensive. I mean, nothing wrong with America. I quite like the idea of going to America, but I'm not a multi-billionaire. So it would be very hard for me to move to America. Very politically polarized, more polarized than the UK is, which is a kind of worry. And the other thing I don't like about, although a lot of places you have to pay for your healthcare, the US is the most expensive place, I think, in the world for your healthcare. I mean, I would need a Warren Buffett-sized wallet just to pay to go and see the dentist. I'd be too worried about my funeral expenses. Probably need to give a liver and 2 kidneys in order to pay for it. So yeah, that's unfortunately out. Mexico, fabulous food, fabulous people. Although the roads are quite dangerous. I mean, I remember being young and watching how dangerous the roads were. They've got these road runners and coyotes everywhere. Moving down, crime, nice. It's a canal. Colombia. The women can certainly dance in Colombia. I mean, the women are very nice in Colombia, but I'm in my mid-50s and I'm married, so I don't really need to do that. But what else do I know about Colombia? Well, cocaine, gangs, and those are sort of things I'm not interested anymore. You've just got a very big forest here. Forest and mountains, really, isn't it? I mean, that's pretty much South America. The Argentinians, I mean, so I hear, they don't like the English because of these islands here. And it's all very cold down here. Moving across here, Ireland. Well, I've lived in Northern Ireland and I moved from Northern Ireland back down to Devon, so I wouldn't go to Northern Ireland. Ireland itself, no. English people really like Ireland, and I think that's the problem. We've really liked it a bit too much that we wanted it. Irish people are not particularly welcoming to English people, although there's an awful lot of them over here working. Moving along, Norway. It's a rich place. I'd be very short in Norway. I mean, they're all very tall, and it's very cold. Of course, the further you go up here, the colder it gets and the darker it gets. Too dark. Sweden. I like Sweden. ABBA, blonde hair, very nice biscuits. Finland. The problem with Finland is it's next to Russia. I like fish as much as the next person, but maybe not as much as someone in Finland does. So now we're moving down to here. We've got France. No. Of course, let's not forget, England has left Europe. So moving to any of these places now is really, really difficult. I can't just jump on a plane and move. I really like this country here, Slovenia, and I really like Italy. Can't just jump on and move over there, though. It's since Brexit's happened, it's a bit of a nightmare. I mean, all of this area, I could only be in 90 days every 180 rolling, Portugal's a possibility. I quite like Portugal, although I'd have to learn Portuguese. There's Spain as well. I think I could also go to Spain. Ukraine, well, no. Bulgaria, Serbia, Romania. I don't want to go to any of those places. Russia is absolutely massive. It comes all the way over here, and they've decided that it's not big enough. They need Ukraine back again, or all of it back. Anyway, let's go down here. Turkey, no. Down here, let's go to Africa. Well, all of this is a desert. And it's very hot. I don't want to live there. All of this down here is very poor. All of this middle section here, I'd catch malaria. I don't really fancy malaria being my hobby for my retirement. Somalia and Eritrea. Yeah, well, that's a totalitarian state. Somalia, pirates. Ethiopia, I'll be hungry. Kenya, full of wild animals. Democratic Republic of Congo, just no. And then moving down All these areas down here just all have loads of problems. Madagascar is a nice big island. I like the film. The Grand Tour, they went to Madagascar and it was really muddy. That put me off a bit. Saudi Arabia, well, that's an impossibility. Israel, no. Lebanon, no. Syria, no. Iraq, no. Iran, no. This area here, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, I would imagine they're quite nice, but no. And then I don't do stans, okay? Kakistan, no. Uzbekistan, no. Turkestan, no. Afghanistan, Pakistan, I don't do those. So they're all no. Rajasthan, no. India. Well, I do like India. I certainly like curry, but I know the recipe now. I went to Sri Lanka a few years ago. That was fabulous. I like Goa and I like Kerala. And right down in the south in Tamil Nadu, there's some interesting places. I would imagine the stress of India would probably kill me before the curry does. Bhutan, not allowed. Burma, well, that's got its problems. Thailand, well, they're having a discussion with Cambodia, so that's a no. Vietnam, that's a big language issue there. Laos, I would like to go to Laos. I'd love to visit Laos. Very poor, though. China. Taiwan, I mean, I'm interested in Taiwan, but then now we've got the Chinese sort of wanting this type of area. But I think China would be too much of a difficult place to me to move. Although I would consider it. South Korea, I do like fried chicken. Yeah, South Korea is an interesting place, but of course it's right next to North Korea, which is a no. Japan, I'd love to visit Japan, but living in Japan, they're just very, very polite, and I don't think I'd be polite enough. This place here is on my list, the Philippines. No man's an island, but maybe a man is 7,000 islands. Malaysia and Singapore, yeah, I mean, that sounds good. This area down here, Bali, I really enjoyed Bali, living in Bali. I lived there for a while. This was really nice. So I haven't lived around here, but I would need to check that out. So yeah, moving down here, Papua New Guinea, nope. Australia, I mean, other than it being full of criminals, poisonous snakes, poisonous spiders, baking heat. Other than that, I think it's a lovely place. It's too far away. And New Zealand, we have sheep here already. And I think that's pretty much it. To recap, it would be Portugal. I think I'll put Mexico on the list. Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. So there's 5 places. I've done a lot of research and I've got various numbers and things like that for each one of those places. So I've got a little list in front of me. Mexico, the cost of living is variable depending on, like all these places, it's variable depending on where you live. But in general, it's about half the price of living in the UK. However, a lot of places that you'll want to live in Mexico, which are the more Americanized places, the prices are a lot higher and not a huge amount of way from what it costs here. It would be cheaper, but not a huge amount of way. The retiree visas for the UK nationals are common. They have what's called a temporary resident visa with proof of income. I would need to have £20,000 plus in savings, and I would need a proof of income. They do it by this calculation. It's around £2,000 a month income that you need to prove that you've got before you move over there, and you need to prove that you're going to continue getting that income. You've got excellent healthcare, so private healthcare systems, affordable insurance. When I say affordable insurance, I mean affordable insurance when in comparison to America, which, well, I mean, quite honestly, anything's affordable compared to American insurance. Climate-wise, it's warm, it's sunny, there's beaches, mountains, and sort of old sort of Spanish colonial towns. It's really quite cool. The good things for me is the tacos in general are so good, I'll probably won't miss fish and chips. The other good things for me, I will finally be an average height male. Another thing with Mexico, one wrong move and I'll be probably featured in a real life episode of Narcos. Portugal. Now, Portugal, a lot of people in the UK retire in Portugal, to the point of, if I go to the Algarve, I remember once a while back I went to the Algarve, and if it wasn't for the weather, I'd have thought I'd just gone to Blackpool. Everything was in English. I could get an English breakfast, and there was nothing Portuguese about it other than the weather. They used to have this thing called a golden visa, and that's finished now. But they do have what's called a D7 income-based visa, which is popular with retirees. The cost of living is more expensive than Mexico. It's about 30% lower than the UK. There's really good healthcare, and English is widely spoken in Portugal. The scenery is beautiful. I really do like the scenery in Portugal. There's some lovely, really lovely old houses that will probably collapse the minute you buy them. The wine's good, but the hangovers tend to last 3 or 4 days longer. If you like sardines, I'm not a great fan of sardines. I do like fish, but not particularly sardines. But if you like sardines, you'll never go hungry, as they have sardines on pretty much everything. You know, I sometimes wonder whether they stir the coffee with a sardine. Now, this place is going to be my most likely choice, having read it all. So I'll say it now, it's probably going to be the Philippines. Yeah, the cost of living is about 50 to 70% lower than the UK, depending on the city. Now, of course, if you're going to live in BGC in the centre of Manila, then that goes out of the window. It's still going to be cheaper, but it's not going to be massively cheaper. If you go to the vast majority of other areas, it's going to be a lot cheaper. So 50 to 70% lower than the UK. English is widely spoken. In fact, English is one of their national languages. A visa called a Special Residential Retirees Visa. On the 1st of September 2025, the price of that visa rose from 10,000 US dollars to 15,000 US dollars. That money you put into a Philippine development bank. And it is your money, but it's money that has to be held in that bank, and you're not allowed to draw on that money. I think it's like a safety net. It's a warm climate. The food there is fantastic. You've got chicken adobo, you've got Jollibee is from the Philippines. Beaches are beautiful. Yes, the women are just as beautiful as the beaches. Every mall has about 370 security guards in it, and they're all going to check your bag on entry or leaving. Even if you're just walking in with a banana, they're probably going to check that. Then we had Malaysia. So Malaysia, they have a visa that's popular for retirees called MM2H, My Second Home, I think it stands for. The requirement over the years have lightened. The cost of living is about 50% lower than the UK. There's a strong infrastructure there. The healthcare is fantastic. In fact, it's a medical tourism hub. The food's going to be fantastic. You've got Malay food, Chinese food, Indian food. You've got a whole hub of different food. So you're never going to get bored of food. You can have nasi lemak for breakfast, satay for lunch, and roti for dinner. Having had Malay food, if you can't handle chili, you'll probably spontaneously combust. The traffic in Kuala Lumpur is slower than the British pension queues at the post office. The 5th place is Indonesia. Now, I've been to Indonesia before, so I know all about Indonesia. Lovely, lovely country. So Bali is another big draw place. Cost of living about 60% lower than the UK. The retirement, KITAS retirement visa is available. You've got to be over 55. You've got to have proof of income of around £1,200 per month. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that the Philippine pension is $1,200 a month. There are a few things when I was over in Bali that I didn't like. Bali is very beautiful, but Bali is full of yoga influencers, and they all look like they're escaping divorce. The beaches are a paradise until you meet scooter traffic with about 4,000 Australians in flip-flops. And earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, it's essentially Mother Nature's theme park. The Philippines looks like it's the most likely. The reason that sort of made the Philippines, definite. The Philippines is one of the few countries that have an arrangement with the UK that the UK agree to continue upping the pension each year in line with the UK inflation. So, in other words, most countries, when you leave the UK, Your pension is capped at the date that you leave. They'll say, right on this date, this is what your pension is, and this is what it's going to stay at for good while you're over there until you come back. The Philippines have a deal. Okay, you can go. And next year, when everybody's pension goes up in the UK, yours will too. So that's a big consideration. So yeah, this is Spence Unpacked. And I need all the help I can get because I've just started. So you know what to do. Well, until next time.